Not today. I will actually ask you, I will show you some questions based on what we have done next week. Okay. Yeah, next week. We started cognition. Did we finish the unit cognition?
Yes, ma'am. You told today there's a new lesson.
A new lesson, learning.
Yes.
Am I right? Yeah. Okay. Let me open this better too. You need to give me a second. Right. Okay. I'm opening the PowerPoint now. It has to be this.
Now come teach them.
Okay, now we have 20 participants. So we are in unit 4. Can you see the PowerPoint I'm sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now you can make notes while listening to me. You are in unit 4. Unit 4 is
Psychology of learning.
learning. If not, you can say learning. Right? I think somebody's background noise is not good, that you can actually mute your mic for the time being. Okay. If it's so. Right. So we are in unit 4. It's learning. I think for teachers, you all teach for your students to learn. So for you, what is learning actually? As teachers, now we all are teachers. So as you understand, what is learning?
Acquiring knowledge.
Acquiring knowledge. Okay. Is it only knowledge? Is it only knowledge that you focus on? No, knowledge, attitudes, and skills. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So anyway, we will look at learning because as you all are teachers, you want to facilitate learning. The other side of the coin is teaching, and then you want your students to learn. So as teachers, if you know what psychology says about learning and how learning happens, how learning can be facilitated. Great, isn't that so? So because of that, this unit is very important and very much relevant to your profession. So you teach, you want your students to learn. So in this unit, we are going to look at what is said about learning. We are going to look at learning through psychological lens. Okay? Right. So we are going, this is the outline of the unit. This is unit outline. And somebody has to, I can't see who is that, but there's background noise, people are talking. Please make sure that you mute your mic. Right. Then this is actually the lesson outline. We will look at what is learning through psychological lens. So because philosophy, they talk about learning. And then sociologists, they talk about learning. Educationists, they talk about learning. But we are going to look at learning, how it is interpreted by psychology, right? It's a very brief one. And then we will look at some theories that discuss how learning happens. How learning happens. That means if you know how learning happens, you can facilitate the learning process. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we know in psychology, we have different schools of thought, right? We have different schools of thought, like behaviorism, cognitivism, humanism, psychoanalysis, etc. They're the major schools of thought. So I have taken some theories of learning. So they tell us how learning happens. So if the teacher knows how learning happens, you can accordingly do your teaching and you're going to facilitate learning. So I have two theories from behaviorism. That is classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov, operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner, right? Classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov, operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. And then we have from the cognitive school of thought, information processing theory of Gagné. From humanism, social learning theory and social cognitive theory, social cultural theory of learning, Vygotsky. So these theories discuss how learning happens according to their assumptions, according to their beliefs. So why do we want to actually know different theories of learning? They say learning happens this way, learning happens this way, learning happens this way. So different assumptions, right? Different beliefs. Why do we want to look at different beliefs? Can you tell me? Why? Why are we looking at different beliefs as teachers? According to classical conditioning, this is how learning happens. According to operant conditioning, this is how learning happens. According to Gagné, this is how learning happens. We are looking at some theories. Why are we looking at some theories, different assumptions and beliefs about learning? Give me an educated guess. Why? Please talk.
Ma'am, can
Why?
you please repeat the question?
Yeah. Now, we are going to look at different learning theories. So classical by Pavlov, operant conditioning by Skinner, then Gagné information processing, like that. I'm going to discuss 5 theories of learning. So these 5 theories, they belong to different schools of thoughts. They have different assumptions or beliefs about learning. So why do we have to look at different theories that give different opinions or beliefs about learning? Why are we looking at them? The answer is here.
Big.
The answer is here. Do you know what eclectic means? Answer is here.
Blend of all the learning theories?
Definitely yes, son. That is, you're not going to be slave to any one of these theories and say, I'm all classical conditioning. This is how learning happens. You're not going to be a slave to operant conditioning. You're not going to be a slave to Gagné's cognitivism. Instead, right, you have a mixed class, different abilities, different learning styles, different intelligent levels, and different personalities. So you're going to blend concepts, elements drawn from different theories as it's appropriate to your class, as it's appropriate to your context. Got it? Then you are an eclectic teacher. You're an eclectic teacher. That means eclecticism is a very kind of important concept in the 21st century education. So you're not blindly accepting one of those concepts. Instead, you are thorough with what is said in classical conditioning, how learning happens. What is said in operant conditioning, how learning happens. What is said in Gagne's information processing, how learning happens. What is said by Vygotsky, what is said by Bandura. So you're thorough with the elements discussed in these theories, and you're going to draw elements from different theories, combine them, blend them, amalgamate them, not insensibly, instead in an appropriate manner, in a sensible way, as the most suitable ones are drawn and combined, and you use them in your class to facilitate learning. Hope you got that. I want a yes or no at least. Got it, or you didn't get that?
Got it, ma'am.
There are 23 people. Why the others are silent?
Got
Yeah,
it,
all
ma'am.
the-
Right. Y'all are silent killers.
yeah, yes.
You're a silent killers, right? You kill the interest. Right, okay. What's your name, son? You joined last week?
Shafiq.
Shafiq, okay, right. Then let's see the first part, what is learning through psychological lens? Because learning is defined in philosophy, learning is defined by educationists, learning is defined by sociologists, different interpretations, but this is psychology. So we are going to look at what is learning through psychological lens. So according to psychologists, right, learning is something that is very difficult to define. Learning is something very difficult to define. There's no the definition for learning. There's no the definition. But commonly they say learning is the process, as one of you said. Learning is the process of acquiring new understanding, knowledge, behavior, skills and values, attitudes and preferences. It's not only knowledge. Acquiring knowledge, skills, attitudes, behaviors, mindset, preferences, etc. Right? That is a general explanation. But we can look at Woolfolk 2004. Look at Woolfolk 2004. According to Woolfolk 2004, he also agrees with this psychological interpretation. Learning is very difficult to define. It is very broad, and there is no the definition that we can actually say 100% yes. So because of that, Woolfolk says in 2004, if you really want to understand what learning is, I repeat, if you really want to understand what learning is, look at NOTS, N-O-T-S, N-O-T-S. Look at NOTS. Look at what learning is not about, right? A little bit of confusion, right? Okay. Now, Woolfolk, agreeing with the other psychologists that it's a concept that is very difficult to define. He says, if you want a better understanding about learning, please look at what learning is not about. What learning is not about. And he proposes 4 NOTs, N-O-T-S, not K-N-O-T-S, right? Right. But N-O-T-S. Okay. What are those NOTs? I'm telling you, number 1, take down. N-O-T-S. So to understand what learning is in a better way, you look at NOTs according to Woolfolk. The first NOT, what learning is not about, right? First NOT, learning is not always limited to knowledge. Learning is not always limited to knowledge. It's not only knowledge that we learn, in other words. Then it indirectly suggests, right? It indirectly suggests that we learn along with knowledge, attitudes, skills, preferences, behaviors, mindset, etc. That is the first knot. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now the second knot, NOT, according to Woolfolk. The second knot is learning happens not only in the classroom. Learning happens not only in the classroom. Learning happens not only in the classroom. What is the suggestion? It happens outside the
Everywhere.
classroom. Everywhere, you're correct. Everywhere. At home, in the playground, in the garden, right? Everywhere. Learning is not limited to the classroom. It happens everywhere. So as teachers, you have to be mindful about it. Most of the teachers, they have forgotten it. They think our students should learn inside the classroom, Kerala, with the teacher's presence. No. Make use of it. If learning can happen outside the classroom, you can understand what a lot of learning can happen in almost every incident. Situation is a learning opportunity. You have to make use of it. You have to make use of it, right? So the third knot. The third knot is this. Learning is not always intentional. Learning is not always intentional. Learning is not always intentional means, now as a teacher, now you have a lesson. You have specific objectives of the lesson. You want your students to be able to do it at the end of the lesson, right? But a figure ground, you can apply here. You remember the figure ground from the previous unit. What is not intended to learn also, they will learn. What is not intended to learn also, they will learn. So you have a lesson for grade 3. Parts of tree and functions of the parts of tree, that is what you want them to learn. But to talk about parts of tree and functions of the parts of tree, that you will be showing them pictures, you will be asking lots of questions, examples, and other thing. Ground is there to present the figure. And your students may learn the ground, not the figure. So you can connect it to the previous unit, ground and figure concept. So you have to be mindful. Learning is not always intentional. What is not intended also, they will learn. Okay, that is a third knot. Now the last and the fourth knot, right? Last and the fourth knot. Learning is not always, they always, not only the correct things that they learn. It's not only correct things that they learn, right? Then what is the indirect suggestion? They learn wrong things as well. It's not only the correct things that they learn wrong things. It's not only subject matter, no, attitudes, skills, values, and all that. So teachers have to be mindful. They might learn the wrong things as well. Not only the right thing that they learn, not only the right thing, but they learn the wrong things as well. So learning is not limited to, that is the very first knot. Knowledge, they learn attitudes, skills, values, preferences, behaviors, all that. So most of the teachers, they actually think the students are supposed to learn knowledge. You also thought, no, like that. And they always think that the students are actually supposed to learn in the classroom with the presence of the teacher. They always think that the students should learn what they are supposed to learn. They learn only what they're supposed to learn. No, they learn the ground as well. You always think that the students learn always the right thing. No, they learn the wrong, especially with attitudes, behaviors, values, and all that. So if you have that broader understanding, because you look at knots, as Woolfolk suggests, you come to a better picture of what it's about. I think actually it's a very big picture about learning. Am I right? He speaks about 4 knots, and it actually makes you to think what learning is all about. Am I right?
Yes, madam.
Mhm. So you know it's not only knowledge, but attitude, skills, behaviors, perceptions, everything is learned. It's not only in the classroom, in the presence of the teacher. No, outside, everywhere, it's a learning opportunity for them. Make use of it. Teachers have the misconception that the students they learn only what they are supposed to learn. Kiara, no, they actually learn the ground as well. It's not always intended. What is not intended also they learn. And teachers have the misconception that they will learn what they are always the correct things. No, they learn the wrong things as well. Teachers are not mindful about it when it comes to learning. So now you know, you look at knots and it makes you to think what learning is, how vast it is, how big and broad it is. That is it. That is Woolfolk 2004, because he actually came up with the definition, because it's something very difficult to define. You understand now by looking at knots. It's yes, it's vast, it's broad, it's difficult to define. Okay, right. Hope it is okay with you. Now we are coming down to the theories of learning. So I have actually listed down 5 theories of learning. They are not very big ones, very simple, but you can think of the elements in those theories. What they talk about, how learning happens. So you have thorough with them, and when it's into classroom, your own classroom teaching and learning, you can think of some elements from classical conditioning, if it is applicable and appropriate, some from Vygotsky, some from Bandura, amalgamate, blend, as Shafiq said, and make the best teaching, because you can facilitate learning by being an eclectic teacher. That's the purpose. So today we will be discussing classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov and operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. Classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov and operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner, they are learning theories. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what are the 2 theories I told you? I want you to make little notes. Classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Don't think I can actually study them later on. Right now, take everything into your head. Terms අලුත් ඒවා එනකොට එවලින් පාඩම් කරගන්න. Read it 3 times. Say it 3 times. Write it down in a paper. Then you remember. Otherwise, it will be a lot, because psychology, you can't just beat about the bush. You have to know the terms. You have to know the steps, processes. You can't think right. You have to study and do. So because of that, application part, of course, you can do. But when it comes to exam purpose, you have to study them, no, and by heart them. So if everything is postponed, you will find it difficult. So now you have pen and paper with you. Say it 3 times, read it 3 times, write it down in a paper. It helps you to keep these terms in mind and know what I'm talking about in a systematic way. Okay? Right. Now here, the theories, I'm going to discuss 2 theories today with you. One is classical conditioning. The other one is operant conditioning. Both are behavioral theories of learning. How do you understand it? What is meant by behavioral theories of learning? They belong to which school of thought? I want you to respond. The first day lesson, there are 4 major schools of thought කියලා we කතා කරා. So we term them as behavioral theories of learning because they belong to
Behaviorism.
behaviorism. behaviorism. Both these theories, classical conditioning and operant conditioning, they are learning theories. Both the theories belong to behaviorism. So what is the assumption of behavior? What is the assumption of behaviorism? Individuals behave like this because they are responding to their environment. What is the assumption of behaviorism? Our behavior is a result of our interaction with the environment. So for the sake of newcomers, I'm telling environment is not trees and animals and all that. In psychology, environment is everything not within us. Environment is everything not within us is our environment. Okay. So according to behaviorism, one of the major schools of thoughts in psychology, if you have not listened to the first lesson, that recording, please listen, the newcomers. Right? Behaviorism means our behaviors are a result of our interaction with our environment. Everything not within us. Our family, our neighborhood, our school, our culture, our religion, the textbooks, the politics, everything not within us, right, is our environment. So our behavior is a result of our interaction with the environment. Okay, that is the general notion of behaviorism. From that school of thought, we have two behavioral learning theories: classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov and operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. By now මේවා කටපාඩම් වෙන්න ඕනේ. අද ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා රෑ හෙට අනිද්ද නැත්නම් විභාගෙ ලඟ වෙලා you are going to study, that won't happen because a lot is there. Everything has its own terms. Right? Classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov, operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. Right now, I will first take you to look at basic assumptions of behaviorism. Basic assumptions which are common to both of the theories, because both the theories are from behaviorism. Right. According to behaviorists, the most important part I'm telling, learn is habit formation. Take it down, please. According to behaviorists, learning is habit formation. Taken down? Down? Taken down? It's taken down?
Madam, could you please repeat?
Yeah. Learning is habit formation. Learning is habit formation. Learning is habit formation. Habits කියලා කියන්නේ පුරුදුනේ. Learning happens through habit formation. And learning is a result of our interaction with the environment. Learning is a result of our interaction with the environment. So they don't think in terms of our intellects, inheritance, innate abilities, intelligence. They don't focus on that. Instead, behavioral school of thought, they believe in learning happens through our interaction with our environment, everything not within us, right? If it is intellect, it's within us, our internal mental capacity. But behaviorists believe that learning happens due to something not within us and we are interacting with them. That is our environment, our parents, our school, our textbooks, our religion, our culture, our friends, our peers, everything. We interact with them and then learning happens. And second one is learning is habit formation. Habit means doing it over and over. It becomes a habit, right? Doing it over and over, it becomes habit. They don't talk about our internal mental capacities like sensations, perception, attention, memory. They don't focus on that because they are not from cognitive school of thought, right? They are from behaviorism. Behaviorism, the common notion is behaviors are a result of our interaction with the environment. So when it comes to learning, they say learning is our behavior. Learning happens because of our interaction with our external environment, and it's a habit formation. Is it clear to you, Puta?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes,
Please
dear.
repeat the first one, please. I don't hear well. Maybe my signal problem or
Yeah, what's
something.
the first one, Puta? Learning happens because of our interaction with the environment. Learning is a result of our interaction with the environment. Environment is everything not within us. Family, school, peers, culture, religion, neighborhood, all that. Okay. Second notion, learning is habit formation. They don't talk about critical thinking, problem solving, logical thinking, abstract thinking. They don't talk about those higher order ones. It's limited to habit formation. That is behaviorism. According to behaviorists, this is how learning happens. Two important notions I gave you. First one, learning is a result of our interaction with the external environment. Learning is habit formation. They disregard our internal mental capacities, our cognition, our emotions, our motivation. They don't talk about that. Okay, got it?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. මේ 31ක් ඉන්නව නම් කතා කරන්නකෝ අනේ. Here, please talk. Got it?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes,
You-
madam.
You understand this or this is Greek to you?
No, understood.
Understood,
Ah.
madam.
Silent killers. Okay. First theory. Right. First theory is, yeah, sorry. Background noise is good, no?
Class, ma'am, little bit, I don't know, shy to speak. That's
Don't be shy. You all are learners. I'm also one of you, right? We are learning now. Because of that, don't be shy. It's okay, right? Don't be shy. And now we are looking at the first theory of learning. We are going to study. The terms, names, just write. It helps you in memory also, right? And better understanding also. It's not then next time when you hear the word that it's taken down, but this is what it means in key points. You can take down. So now we are going to write it down. The first, number one, learning theory that belongs to behaviorism. Classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov. Classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov. Look at this Ivan Pavlov, right? From 1849 to 1936. A Russian physiologist, not a psychologist exactly, a Russian physiologist. Why physiologist into this learning theory? If you remember right, the very first lesson I told you in talking about history of evolution of psychology, psychology branched out from physiology and philosophy. Psychology became a separate field of study and it branched out from philosophy and physiology. So Ivan Pavlov, proposing this learning theory, he's a Russian physiologist. Okay. Now look at what he says. To understand this theory of මොකද නම? What's the name of the theory? All of you, everyone.
Classical conditioning.
Very good. Very
Classical
good.
conditioner.
Very good. Classical conditioning, to understand what this is all about and how learning takes place, learning as a habit formation, how it happens. I will tell you the experiment he conducted first. Eka, you don't have to, just know the story first, okay? The story behind the theory. He was conducting an experiment because psychology is all time tested. No experiments are conducted, research done, then only the theory is formulated. So Ivan Pavlov was doing an experiment. It's related to physiology. He was doing some experiment with dogs. So behaviorism, it's known for that. They use dogs for experiments, and the findings are generalized to human beings, which is a criticism on them, right? So physiologists was experimenting with some dogs. It is something related to physiology. It's about salivation process of dogs, right? So its physiology means bodily. Salivation process of okay, salivation process of dogs. That is an experiment related to physiological, okay? But when he was actually doing that experiment, he had to put all the dogs into a cage or a kennel, right? He was experimenting with the dogs. Dogs were caged. They were in a kennel. And you have to actually give the dogs food, give the dogs medicine, or for different things. He had to actually get the dogs to the kennel door. So to get the dogs to the kennel door, he used to sound a bell or ring a bell. To get the dogs to the kennel door, he used to ring a bell or he used to sound a bell. So now he used to sound the bell to give medicine, to give food and all the things that they want the dogs near the kennel door. And now you have to think in terms of what? Now, when you give food to dogs, now this is measuring its salivation, amount of salivation. When you give food, even to a dog or a man, it doesn't matter. What happens to the saliva? It's more or less. Naturally, it's a natural thing. You get saliva, am I right? In your mouth. Secretion of salivation is natural when you're confronted with food, am I right?
Yes,
Correct,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah, it happens with the dogs also. It is a natural thing. It is not a learned thing. Am I right? To salivate, when you salivate, now your favorite food, maybe ice cream. You see ice cream. So salivation happens. It's a natural thing. You did not learn to salivate to ice cream. Am I right? Dogs also naturally, they salivate when they see food. It's a natural thing, not a learned thing. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Right. Okay. So, මමත් මහා වාතයන්නේ හරි මං කියගෙන යනවා. Okay. Then so now he is actually measuring the amount of salivation. So naturally, when he rings the bell to give food, the amount of salivation is high. It's a natural thing. It's naturally occurring. It's unconditioned. It's not learned. It's not taught. It's natural. But when you sound the bell, not to give food, but for some other purpose like giving medicine or whatever, what about the amount of salivation? Do they salivate to the sound of the bell?
No.
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 No, ma'am.
It's neutral. It is neutral. Okay? But you know, after some time, the dog's in the kennel cage, and after some times, maybe 1 month, 2 months like that, he noticed something. That is, he sounds the bell, not to give food, but for some other purposes to get the dogs to the kennel door. And there is a considerable amount of salivation happening, collecting in the bottles. What is the reason? He started thinking. The reason is there was a bonding or association. I repeat the two words. There is association or bonding. Bonding or association of what? The natural learning and the neutral stimulus. There was a bonding of natural and the neutral stimulus. In that case, what is the natural stimulus for the dogs to salivate? Dogs salivate. What is the natural stimulus? Uttejana. Food. Definitely, yes. What is the neutral stimulus that dog does not salivate?
Medicine.
Ringing of the bell. No. Stimulus. Ringing of the sound of the bell. What is it?
Ringing of the sound of the bell.
Sound of the bell.
But later on, he saw to the sound of the bell, there's a considerable amount of salivation. How come? New learning. It's a new learning. Dogs did not salivate to the sound of the bell. But now, after some time, they have learned to salivate to the sound of the bell. How come? How did it happen? Then he noticed, because he was bonding, he was connecting, he was pairing up, he was associating the neutral stimulus and the natural stimulus for some time. Natural stimulus, that is, dogs salivate to it. Neutral stimulus, dogs don't salivate. Now, there is a new learning. The neutral stimulus is actually transformed into a conditioned stimulus or a learned stimulus. That is, to the sound of the bell, the dogs are salivating. There's new learning that has happened through the association, through the bonding. So that is the story. Now, if you want to explain it in the paper, right, or apply it in the classroom to facilitate learning, you won't have to explain it in the paper. You have to apply it to facilitate learning in the classroom. You have to pay attention to these, what is in actually these terms coined by him. What are these terms? All of you. Unconditioned stimulus US. All of you.
Unconditional.
Stimulus. Unconditioned, not
US.
conditional. US. Unconditioned response. Then neutral stimulus, no response. Conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. So you can give this story using these terms used by Ivan Pavlov in this theory. So unconditioned stimulus, always unconditioned means natural. Conditioned means learned. What do they mean? Unconditioned means natural. Conditioned means learned. Okay? Conditioned means learned. So unconditioned stimulus is the food platter. Natural stimulus, food platter. What is the unconditioned response? Natural response is what? Salivation to the food platter. Then neutral stimulus, no response. That is the sound of the bell. But the sound of the bell is transformed into a conditioned stimulus or learned stimulus through the process of association or bonding. So the neutral stimulus, that is the sound of the bell, is now a conditioned stimulus. Why? After some times, dogs started salivating to the sound of the bell. So conditioned stimulus is the sound of bell now. Conditioned response is salivating to the sound of the bell. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Silent killers, the 30 of you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, ogollo vibhagedi liyanakota, you have to use these terms. Unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, neutral stimulus, conditioned response. Now, let's look at this. Okay. Let's look at this. Here, look at this image, illustration. Unconditioned stimulus, natural stimulus, that is the food platter. Natural response, dog salivating to food. Unconditioned response. Sound of the bell, neutral. Dogs don't salivate. And then bell and the food. Bell is the unconditioned stimulus. Sorry, bell එක හරියට කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? Bell is the neutral stimulus. Food is the unconditioned natural stimulus. They are bonded, they are associated, they are actually paired up for some time. And then there is new stimulus and response, new learning has happened. Learned means conditioned, so learned stimulus and learned response. It is termed as conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. The neutral stimulus has been transformed to a conditioned stimulus, the bell. Now the dogs salivate to the sound of the bell even though there's no food. That is the conditioned response. So new learning has happened. New learning has happened. So look at these terms. Okay. Acquisition and extinction. What is acquisition? Acquisition is new learning. What is acquisition? New learning. So how does new learning happens? The හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. මුලින්ම තියෙනවා neutral stimulus is bonded with, paired up with, associated with what? Help me. Neutral stimulus is paired up, bonded, associated with what? Unconditioned stimulus. Unconditioned stimulus. And the neutral stimulus is transformed into what?
Conditioned stimulus.
Very good, conditioned stimulus. That process is termed as acquisition in classical conditioning. මම ආයි කියනවා. Repeat. Okay, හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න පුළුවන්. Neutral stimulus is transformed into a conditioned stimulus which triggers a conditioned response. How? Through the bonding or association of neutral stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus. Clear? Clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please,
Now I
yes.
repeat it again. Neutral stimulus in this experiment, the bell, is transformed into a conditioned stimulus. In this experiment, the bell once again. Through, how කියන එකයි කියන්නේ, through the association of bonding of the neutral stimulus, that is the bell, with the unconditioned stimulus, that is the food platter for some time. So bell එකට කෙල හලන්න පුරුදු කරා. අලුත් දැනුමක් ඒක. අලුතෙන් ඉගෙන ගත්ත දෙයක්. කොහොමද පුරුදු කරේ? කෙල හලපු නැති බෙල් එක නියුට්‍රල් ස්ටිමියුලස් එක එකතු කරා. හැමතිස්සෙම එකතු කරා with unconditioned natural stimulus එකත් එක්ක. ඒ තමයි ෆුඩ් වලට හැමෝම කෙල හලනවා. ඒතර කෙල හලන්න පුරුදු කරා බෙල් එකට නියුට්‍රල් එකට. කොහොමද කරේ? by pairing up the two. That is how the transformation happens. So acquisition is transforming the neutral stimulus to conditioned stimulus through the bonding or association of neutral stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus. Hope that is clear. Now I will give you a classroom example. That made experiment done by Pavlov. We discuss how it can be used in the classroom to facilitate learning, to form new learning. Because behaviorists believe learning is habit formation. Okay, it's not big learning like critical thinking, creativity, abstract thinking. It's limited to lower order thinking like understanding, comprehension and all that. Okay, habit formation. Very low level of learning. Until it happens. Now I give you classroom examples. You have to identify, when I give you the example, you have to identify the unconditioned stimulus, what is the conditioned response, what is the neutral stimulus, what is the conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. You have to identify by listening to the classroom view. Now you she actually does not like, she doesn't show any interest in doing group work. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like learning your subject. Suppose you are an English language teacher, she doesn't like learning your subject. But you know that this child likes her best friend a lot. So you want to actually get the child to always sit with the best friend in doing your classroom activities. And then after some time you see, even when the child is not sitting with the best friend, child takes some interest in doing your activities. Right. In this classroom example, what is the neutral stimulus?
Best friend.
No. Neutral can
Group
response
work.
එකක් නැහැ.
Group work.
Very well.
Doing activities in the class, right? මොකද?
Yeah.
Doing
Doing
activities
activities in the
in the
classroom.
class. Yeah. So that is the neutral stimulus. No response. So there is then ඔයා හිතනවා, as a teacher now, no response. The child doesn't like it. But I want to actually transform this into a new learning. That is, the child likes doing activities. කොහොමද කරන්න පුළුවන්? බොන්ඩ් කරන්න ඕනේ. බොන්ඩ් කරන්න ඕනේ මොකක් එක්කද? Natural
With her,
unconditioned stimulus එකක් එක්ක. What is the unconditioned stimulus in this
her
example?
friend.
Her
Best
friend.
friend.
Very good. Her friend. And what is the unconditioned response? Her liking to the friend. What is
Yeah.
it? Her liking to the friend. Very good. So now what are you going to bond, associate, pair up?
Her friend.
Classroom activities and the friend. What is it? Classroom
Classroom
activities and
activity
the
and the
friend.
friend.
They are paired up. Now she is made to do classroom activities by sitting with them. Sometimes you continue it. That bonding association happens for some time. Then what would be the condition stimulus? Classroom activities is the condition stimulus now. And liking to do classroom activities even when the friend is not there, without the friend, is the conditioned response. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is one
Madam.
example. Sorry?
Ma'am, really, I have done this works to my son when he,
Can you share that
but
experience?
yeah, yeah. Because when he was facing a scholarship examination, he
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
want to write the papers. He is very intelligent with the question answers and everything,
Yeah.
but he doesn't want to write. So I always take his best friend to the him, and I did something with
Okay.
him.
So that
Really,
is mother's instinct, right?
yes.
You can use this. Very good. Thank you for sharing that experience. So you
He was
can do the same in your classroom as well. Am I right? To facilitate learning. To facilitate learning. So according to classical conditioning, how does learning happen? Through the bonding, through the association of neutral stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus. Okay? Got it. Can I give you another example of a large scale example? This actually, now he's retired and very old. There's one Professor Roland Abepala, former senior lecturer and a professor in the Faculty of Education. He's a Sinhala medium, sir. So this research is available in bookshops and in the Ceylon room of the Colombo campus. But it is in Sinhala because he's Sinhala medium, sir. And this is what he did. It's a large scale action research he conducted. We all know in rural areas, right? In village schools, children, they don't show any interest in learning English. Their English language, interest in learning language is very poor. So neutral stimulus is English language. So they went in search of unconditioned stimulus in those rural schools. So they learned they all like music, dance, outdoor activities, games. That is unconditional stimulus. Natural liking is there. So bonded, these two are bonded. They actually develop a kind of a project to teach English using dance, music, and play and games. They develop a project. So they started teaching in the schools using English is taught through games and play and music and dance for some time. So the pairing up of the association of neutral stimulus, English with unconditioned stimulus, dance, play and music and blah, blah. And then after some time, after 6 months of this project, unconditioned stimulus was removed. No more bonding, no more pair. Now English is taught in the traditional way without using music or games or whatever. In the traditional manner, the music was made. English, they started teaching English. The students continued to show interest in learning English. That means the neutral stimulus is now transformed into a conditioned stimulus. Now English language learning, they like it. Conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. How did it happen? Through the bonding of neutral stimulus, English with unconditioned stimulus, dance, play, music, and games. Got it? This is actually done in rural areas. It's a worldwide, island-wide project by the University of Colombo using English language teachers and all that. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, can you think of an example where you can use this classical conditioning to facilitate learning? One example, two examples from you. Now, you shared your own experience. Maybe that you have classroom experiences also. Can you think of? Right, I will set it for homework next time. Okay? I want out of 30 students, I want at least 10 of you to give me classroom example of classical conditioning referring to unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, neutral stimulus, and then conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. Are you okay? We'll think of something new, not what is exactly discussed here in the class. Okay, you have to respond.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Others? Silent killers.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, madam.
Okay. Now we will look at this term extinction. Right. We will look at this term extinction. That is also very important because it's a stepping stone to the next theory, operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. So if you are to talk about classical conditioning, there's a threat. What is this threat? The threat of extinction. Extinction කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? නැති වෙලා යනවා. Now there's a threat of extinction. What is it? Now there's no more bonding. There's no more association. Now there is condition, stimulus, and response. Now no more pairing up. And then after some time, there can be a gradual decrease in the condition, stimulus, and condition response. Gradual decrease can be seen. If I get one of you to read what is given under extinction, can you see? I repeat it first. Now there is no more acquisition has happened. Now there's a condition, stimulus, and response. There's no more bonding or association. So after some times, there's the threat of extinction. That is what they actually learned newly, they might lose interest and there's a decline of what they have learned. Gradual decline, and ultimately, finally, it may extinct. It may disappear. That is a threat. But once you get them to learn something new, acquisition happens. You have to stop extinction. To stop extinction, you can use B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. So now, for example, now in that project, English taught with using music, drama, games, and then no more bending. They started teaching English in a traditional manner. Students started liking it. But after 6 months or so, they actually faced this threat. Again, students are losing their interest in English language because no more bonding. Gradual decline can happen. For that, they introduced some elements from operant conditioning. We will be discussing it later after this. Okay, so can you read the explanation given here for extinction to the rest of the class? One of you read.
Extinction is when the occurrences of a condition response decrease or disappear. In classical conditioning, this happens when a conditioned stimulus is no longer paired with an unconditioned stimulus.
Very good. It happens gradually. It's natural, no? Now, the classroom example I gave, she doesn't like the doing activities that you gave. But you saw that she likes being with the friend. So you pair them up. And after some time, even with the friend is not there, she started doing activities. But there can be a gradual decline, and ultimately that newly formed learning habit can extinct. That is extinction. That is the threat. So when we get them to form a new learning, that is conditioned stimulus and conditioned response, you have to know, you have to actually make sure that it doesn't decline and extinct. For that, you can find a solution from operant conditioning. So we will move on to operant conditioning. Before that, I will give you the summary. Classical conditioning belongs to behaviorism, proposed by Ivan Pavlov, a physiologist. He did the dogs experiment to propose this. And you have to talk about unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, neutral stimulus, bonding, association, conditioned stimulus, and conditioned response. Acquisition, transforming the neutral stimulus into a conditioned stimulus through the bonding of neutral stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus. But there's the threat of extinction, no more bonding, no more pairing up, there can be a gradual decline of the conditioned stimulus and response. That is what it is all about. What is most important is the classroom application. As teachers, you can think of ways of applying this in the classroom to facilitate learning. Okay, got the summary? Normally, I get my students to give the summary to save time. I did it myself. So you also can actually listen to this recording, study the material, and write your own summary for this. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
right. Then I will get you to look at operant conditioning by P.F. Skinner. Right. Before coming to that, today I really want to see my class. Let's see, they are there. Faika, Fatima Faika, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Listening. Hamiza, Tirosha Lianage,
Yes, ma'am. I'm listening.
good. But where do you teach?
I'm in now Dubai, ma'am. I'm working in a nursery as a teacher.
Very good. So what qualification you have to go there as a teacher?
Actually, ma'am, I did some diploma, and then
Where?
I had working in the Sri Lanka also in the
Yeah,
international
where did you
school.
do your diploma?
It's a preschool and primary teacher education center in Gampaha, but we
Very
have
good.
branch in Goa also.
Very good. Because others also will come to know how you actually went to Dubai, because they also might need. No, that's why I asked, right? And then is there Rukaya Arham?
Yes, ma'am.
You are there, no? Mayumi Karunaratna?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Nalaka Prasad? Nalaka Prasad? Shamin Bandar?
Yes, madam. Nalaga Prasad.
You're Nalaka
Hello, miss.
Prasad. Are you
Yes,
a teacher?
yes, madam.
Then I thought actually Shamin is Muslim Kiela. No, you're not a Muslim, no?
No, miss, no.
After seeing your, but I thought you're a Muslim Kiela. Okay, it's no problem. It doesn't matter, right? But because Shami, it is a Muslim name Kiela, I thought. Purnima,
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
where do you teach?
Madam, do you know our Kandy Royal International? That one. In
Where?
Kandy.
Candy, I'm alien. I'm an alien to Candy. Okay, right. We are Colombo people, right?
Yeah,
No,
okay.
Candians are very proud, no? Very proud, and they are very proud to be Candians and all that. I'm not from Colombo, though I live in Colombo. I'm from Kalutara. Anybody from Kalutara? No. Right. So back to our work. Take interest. I want to ask you, do you go through your recordings and notes and make your short notes and all that? Find time. Do you do on regular basis? Please get into the habit of doing it on regular basis, dear. Right? This is beautiful and this is very important. And not only the subject matter, not only passing exams, you have to develop your study skills also. So get into regular do studies in regular basis. I know it's difficult, maybe that you have to work, you have to earn, you have to learn, you have to look after family, everything is there, I know. But you have to be a multitasker. That is the need of the hour. And make sure that you develop your skills along with your certificates. Skill development will not happen if you're not into regular basis studies. Okay, a word of advice. And now you can see my slides. We are in the second theory of learning. What is the second theory of learning?
Operant conditioning.
Very good. Who proposed operant conditioning?
Yes.
B.F.
Skinner.
Skinner.
Yes,
Right.
Skinner.
1904 to 1990. He is
American.
an very good, not physiologist, psychologist, American psychologist. But he also belongs to the behaviorism school of thought. He is also a behaviorist psychologist. So what is the common assumption of behaviorism? Our behaviors are a result of our interaction with the environment. And learning or the learning is the behavior, learning is habit formation. Behavior is habit formation. So it is common to B.F. Skinner as well because he is also a behaviorist. He also belongs to the behaviorism school of thought. So learning is a matter of our interaction with the environment and everything not within us is an environment. That is what happened in classical conditioning, no? Right? Bonding, right? And then here also he believes in learning is habit formation. So they talk about lower order learning. They don't talk about problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and all that. No. Instead, it's habit formation, understanding, comprehension, doing something over and over and learning it. Very lower level of abilities, right? But still they are very helpful because we learn not only knowledge, no, but skills, attitudes, perceptions, behaviors, everything is learned. Okay. So now let's say about learning. Right? If you really want to understand what B.F. Skinner talks about operant conditioning as a learning theory, I have a story once again, the experiment done. Now, Ivan Pavlov did an experiment with dogs. Here, that is a kind of a feature of behaviorists, okay? They experiment with animals, and they are generalized to humans. The other schools of thought, they criticize behaviorism for that. Anyway, here in operant conditioning, we have to talk about an experiment done by B.F. Skinner using rats, mice, rats, okay? So he used rats for this experiment. And we call it Skinner box experiment because it's done by Skinner. Skinner box experiment with rats. This is the story I tell you. Now, he was actually doing an experiment with rats and he put rats into a box. He put rats into a box. And you know the nature of rats. They don't stay in one place. They run here and there. That's the nature of rats. No? So we also say, no, you're in a rat race. You do not know why you're doing. You do it because the others are doing in a competitive world. Right? Likewise, that's the nature of rats. They run here and there, to and fro inside the box. It's not with a purpose that they did. Aimlessly, right? It's their way, no? They were running here and there. He made it so, while running, accidentally, not with purpose, right? Accidentally, the rats stepped on a lever inside the box. There's a lever. They actually step on it. It's actually accidental. And then when they step on the lever, some food dropped in. Some food pellets dropped in. So no, the rats liked it. And initially, it was an accident. It happens accidentally. They didn't know anything. But later on, they learned to step on the lever to get food pellets. That's new learning. What is it? They could step on the lever and get food pellets. How come? Because accidentally when they were running here and there, they step on the lever, they got a reward. Food pellets. It's a reward, no? It's a reinforcement. They like it. So the consequences were good. And They actually learned to step on the lever to get food pellets. There was new learning happens. How did it happen? Because there was a reward. Right then, similarly, in another version of the same experiment, B.F. Skinner put rats into a box, the Skinner box. And naturally the rats are like that. They started running here and there. Unintentionally or accidentally, they step on the lever. This time, when they step on the lever, what happened was they got an electric shock. They got an electric shock. They didn't want to get electric shock. It's a form of punishment. Then the rats learned not to step on the lever. They learned to avoid the lever in running here and there. So that is also actually, they learned something new. Or they stopped doing something, right? They unlearned something. They stopped doing something. So here in B.F. Skinner, based on this rats experiment, getting rewards or punishments, and then learning to do something and not to do something, that is the basis of operant conditioning. So accordingly, that we can say operant conditioning is learning through rewards and punishments. Now, if you take classical conditioning, learning through bonding or association of neutral stimulus with unconditioned stimulus. Here in operant conditioning, learning through rewards and punishments. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah. Now this is very simple, no? This is a very simple notion. If you really want to make use of this operant conditioning effectively in the class, to make effective use of operant conditioning, B.F. Skinner actually thinks that you want to learn more about these rewards and punishments, the use of rewards and punishments to facilitate learning. So as you are supposed to learn more about rewards and punishments, how they are to be used effectively in the classroom to facilitate learning, he proposes, right, some key concepts. The key concepts are, first one, types of rewards and punishments. Teachers should be aware of types of rewards and punishments. If you know different types of rewards and punishments, you can make use of them in a very effective way because you will be using them appropriately. And then you have to know the exact pronunciation is schedules, but I go by Sri Lankan pronunciation, schedules, okay? Schedules of reinforcement without actually just in a robotic way that you don't have to give reinforcements. What are the most basic plans or when and where to give reinforcement? Then only it becomes effective. Just giving rewards or punishments will not be very effective. So if you really want to use this notion of rewards and punishments in the classroom to facilitate learning, you have to use it effectively. And to use it effectively, he wants you to actually learn the two concepts, types of rewards and punishments and schedules of reinforcement. Hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's see. Types of, first one, types of rewards and punishment. Now you have to make notes. First concept is types of rewards and punishments. He introduces 4 types of rewards and punishments. How many types?
4 types.
4 types. Now you can take it down. Positive rewards or reinforcers, negative rewards or reinforcers, positive punishment, negative punishment. These are the 4 types. So you have rewards, you have punishments. Rewards are 2 types, positive and negative. Punishments are 2 types, positive and negative. You can use both rewards and punishments, both positive and negative, each one of them. There are 4 main types that you can use in the classroom to facilitate learning. Okay, the learning process. So what does it mean by positive and negative rewards and punishments? The first thing, rewards or reinforcements. We are first looking at rewards or reinforcements. Rewards or reinforcements are used with good behaviors or bad behaviors, favorable behaviors or unfavorable behaviors. Common sense.
Favorable.
Favorable, good behaviors, good things, right? So you can use reinforcers or rewards with good behaviors, favorable behaviors. Emanang, you want to strengthen the good behaviors or weaken the good behaviors? Strengthen the good behaviors. So you have to know rewards or reinforcers are used to strengthen good behaviors. First thing. Reinforcements or rewards are used to strengthen good behaviors. So what is positive, what is negative? If it is positive reinforcement, you, the teacher, has to give something to the student. Give and take. If it is positive, you are giving something to the student. So now rewards are to strengthen good behaviors. So to strengthen good behavior, you are using positive reinforcement. Now you are giving something to the student. Will you give something that students like or students don't like for good behaviors?
Like.
Yeah. Students, something that students like, that you can give them as a reinforcement to strengthen the good behavior. So positive, now you're giving some, right? Now think of a good behavior in the class. I will ask you, give me a classroom example of positive reinforcement. In a reinforcement කිව්ව ගමන් හිතන්න ඕනේ මුලින්ම good behavior එකක් ගැන. That is the logical thinking. What is the good behavior that you can think of? A regular basis, you come to class. You attend lectures on regular basis. It's a good behavior. So if it is a good behavior, you want to strengthen that good behavior. If you are using positive reinforcement, you have to give something to the students to strengthen good behavior of regular attendance. Something that the students like. What will you give in the class? You have come all the 5 days of the week. You are regular in your attendance. You are entitled for a red star in the chart. It's a positive reinforcement to strengthen good behavior of regular attendance. Am I right?
Right, ma'am.
Yeah. Then if it is negative, you remove, you take something from the student. Rewards, reinforcements to strengthen good behavior. So the good behavior, the same good behavior, that is regular attendance. You want to strengthen it, but you are using negative reinforcement. You have to remove, take something from the student. You have to take something student like or student does not like.
Doesn't like.
Doesn't like. What can it be? Now the same good behavior of regular attendance. The student doesn't like to stay after school to clean class room. So you tell them, as you have come all the 5 days to to school. This week, you are removing from classroom cleaning. You're removed from classroom cleaning. So to strengthen the good behavior, you remove something that the student doesn't like. Negative means removing, but as it's a good behavior and reinforcement, you are removing something that the student doesn't like, and it will strengthen their good behavior. So why negative reinforcement? Why not always positive reinforcement? It's easy to give. Why removing negative reinforcement? These concepts are there to make use of these concepts of rewards and punishments in a very effective way. So why not always positive but making them negative as well? Positive reinforcements actually make students selfish, and they are always extrinsically motivated only. They become selfish. They do something only for a reward all the time. All throughout life, you give them positive reinforcements, rewards for what they do, and their mindset is that they do something good if there is a reward only. And it has become a social issue. Even a marriage is for rewards, status, money. In the absence of love, they talk about marriage because it's all for rewards. Because that is the mindset cultivated in school, at home, by everyone, by using positive reinforcement extensively. But you can't say no to that because you have to motivate your students to do something, learn something. So you have to say yes, but you can minimize the bad effects by introducing negative reinforcement as well. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Mm.
ma'am.
So this is the effective way of using rewards and punishment. Otherwise, there will be new learning and all that, but they are selfish. They are always motivated for a reward only. When the reward is not there, they don't perform the good behavior. All these things have happened in this society. It has come into marriage as well, according to research. Okay, right. So we have to actually get into the fair practice of this. Effectively, you have to use these notions. You can't say no to it because when somebody is not motivated, not interested, that you have to introduce rewards, right? Okay. තේරුණාද ළමයි? No.
Yes, ma'am.
දැන් විභාගයට තමයි මේව කටපාඩම් කරලා ලියන්න ඕනේ. නමුත් පන්ති කාමරේ you know this idea. You will be experimenting with them, right? You will be apply these things in the classroom. හැමතිස්සෙම positive reinforcements. So you will think of ways of introducing negative reinforcements as well. So now we look at the second set, that is punishments. Punishments are always given applied with good behaviors or bad behaviors. Unfavorable, bad behaviors. Emana, you want to strengthen them or weaken them? Bad behaviors, unfavorable behaviors, you want to strengthen them or decrease them or weaken them?
Decrease them.
Decrease or weaken them, right? Okay. Right. Then if it is actually punishment, you have to think of weakening them, right? And now think of a bad behavior that you want to weaken in the classroom. Your students don't do homework. Students don't do homework. Not doing homework is a bad behavior. So you have to use punishment there, right? To weaken that bad behavior. So you can use two types. What are the two types? Positive punishment and negative punishment. If it is positive, you are giving something to the student to weaken the bad behavior. You will give something that the student like or student doesn't like.
Doesn't like.
Say it again.
Doesn't like.
doesn't like. Now the students, they don't like black stars. So you can give them black stars for doing homework. Students like to get punished, right, kneeling down. Now, of course, physical punishment is not practiced anymore, right? Anyway, students don't like to clean the classroom. So you ask them, you give them some task to do, clean the classroom, giving some task that they don't like. It's positive punishment. It weakens bad behavior. And then negative punishment, now it's to weaken bad behavior, but you're removing or taking something from the student. This time you have to take something that they like or they don't like. In negative punishment, you're removing, you're taking something they like or something they don't like.
Don't like. They like.
They like.
Don't like.
Yeah, they like something they like that you're going to take
Oh.
from them. Yeah. So they like going to the playground in the interval and playing with the friends. Like they like doing group work. So you actually remove it. As a punishment for not doing homework, you're not going to be in that group today. I want you to sit here with me, next to me. You're removing his chance to sit with his friend. You're removing his playtime as a punishment to weaken the bad behavior of not doing homework. So if I ask you, write a classroom example of negative punishment. First thing, punishment is for bad behavior. What is the bad behavior? Negative means I'm removing something that they like. What is it? That is how that you can logically approach it to give examples for these 4 types of rewards and punishments that the teachers can use in the classroom to facilitate learning in operant conditioning. Why not always positive punishment? Why negative punishment? Can you tell me? Because and punishment. Why not always positive punishment? Why negative punishment? Positive punishment, mentally, physically traumatizing. Am I right? It's a traumatic experience. We don't want our students to be traumatized, inhibited all the time. Am I right?
Right.
Right. Then the last part of operant condition. Manko schedules of reinforcement, schedules of reinforcement, if not, right? That means for the effective use of rewards and punishments. You can't just actually give reinforcements. Instead, the teacher has a very good understanding when and how to use rewards in order to facilitate learning according to operant condition, right? And then he identifies and classifies these reinforcement schedules like this. First, schedules of reinforcement into 3 types: continuous reinforcement, intermittent or partial, and then extinction. Now, there's a acquisition, classical condition. New learning has happened. But if you don't use rewards, that will extinct, that will disappear. That is one thing that can happen. But if you really don't want it to extinct or disappear, you can use continuous reinforcement or intermittent or partial reinforcement. So what is this continuous reinforcement? What is this intermittent reinforcement? Continuous reinforcement means each and every time good behavior occurs, each and every time the good behavior occurs, the child is entitled for a reward or a reinforcement. That is continuous reinforcement. Each and every time the good behavior occurs, the child is reinforced. That is continuous reinforcement. What is intermittent or partial reinforcement? The child is not reinforced or rewarded each and every time that the good behavior occurs. The teacher doesn't reinforce the child, give rewards to the child each and every time that the good behavior occurs. Why? Why these two types? Because continuous reinforcement, that is rewarding the child each and every time of the good behavior, is not practical. Am I right? Is it practical?
No.
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 Then why do we have to use it then? If it is not practical, why do we have to use it? Why do we have to use it if it's not practical? මම මේ කියලා දෙන්නේ කොයි වෙලාවටද යොදාගන්නේ කියලා you have to know. Why continuous reinforcement we use if it is not practical? Because for the establishment of good habit, for the establishment of good habit, until the establishment of the good habit, we can use continuous reinforcement. That is, each and every time the good behavior occurs, you are reinforcing the child. Until they form the good habit, each and every time that you reward the child, continuous reinforcement. Example, you get a new set of students in grade 6. You're the class teacher and you teach them English. You see they are not into the habit of reading. They are not into the habit of reading. You want them to be into the habit of reading. You want them to form the good habit of reading, establish the good habit of reading. So you will decide on continuous reinforcement each and every time that they go to the library and borrow a book and read. They can come with the library card and be entitled for a reward. Practical till they form the habit, you can use it. So continuous reinforcement, though not practical, when we want them to form the good habit, establish the good habit for some time, that we will use it. Got it? You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And then, you can slowly move as it's not practical. Once you see they have formed the habit of reading, you can now move on to intermittent or partial reinforcement, which is actually much more practical than it. But we can't say no to continuous reinforcement. If they have not formed the good habit, you need to get them to form good habit, right? Now, for example, your students are not in the habit of doing homework. For sometimes you will be using continuous reinforcement. But once they establish the good habit, form the good habit, as it's very difficult for you to continually rewarding them, you will move on to intermittent reinforcement. So intermittent or partial reinforcement, you can see 4 types, 4 main types. What are the 4 main types? Look at this grid. I will read it for you. Starting from the bottom. Fixed, interval, intermittent reinforcement schedule. Variable, interval, intermittent reinforcement schedule. Fixed, ratio, intermittent reinforcement. And variable, ratio, intermittent reinforcement. Those are the 4 types of intermittent or partial reinforcement. You can see fixed and variable, ratio and interval. First, we will see what is ratio, what is interval. Interval and ratio. Now, you're not going to reinforce the child each and every time the good habit is performed. Instead, partially. So, interval means you refer to a duration of time. Every month, you're going to reward them. Every week, Friday, you're going to reward them. Once a week, once a month, every first Friday, every last Friday, like that. That is interval. Now, the good behavior is doing homework. You tell them, right, I will actually reward you by looking at your library card. No, monkey homework kela. By looking at your homework, I will reward you every Friday. You're entitled for a red star every Friday. So that is interval. Ratio means number of times. Number of times. When you do homework 5 times, come and collect your red star. When you read books, borrow library books, 10 books, ratio, 10 books, number, come and collect your reward, the ribbon, like that. So interval refers to the duration, ratio time, ratio refers to the number. It's a matter of time and number. Then we look at fixed and variable. What do they mean? Fixed means it's constant, not changing. Every Friday, fixed interval. Every 10th book, fixed ratio. So your students know every Friday I'm entitled for this if I continue to do that. If I continue to read after 10 books, I'm entitled for a reward. Motivation is high because it's fixed. They know when they are entitled for it. Fixed. Duration or time or number, it doesn't matter. Motivation is a bit high, right? But you can easily move on to variable interval and variable ratio as well. Variable interval and variable ratio, it is not fixed, it is changing. Amount of time or number, it changes. Why do you do like that? One thing is to get them to be intrinsically motivated. Intrinsically motivated. They are not always doing it, keeping that after 10 books, I'm getting a badge. After every Friday, I'm getting something. So they are actually extrinsically rewarded, motivated. You want them to be intrinsically motivated as well. So this is less sure, but still they continue to do it. So you are transforming their extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation, like saying variable or variable ratio. There's no fixed time, there's no fixed time. No, teacher is in the habit of you think today I'm free, I can look at your library cards. Can you come and show me? Okay. That is actually variable interval or variable ratio, it may be. I give you one outside classroom. This is good with mature learners, variable ratio, variable interval. But still, you are doing it with a purpose. Why? You are transforming their extrinsic motivation to do something into an intrinsic motivation. It's a must, otherwise they're selfish. It creates problems. They are not sound in their mind. They have grown very selfish. It affects their personal life, professional life, everything, because that has been the practice all throughout. So as a very good professional teacher who knows psychology, when it is right time, you will actually move on to variable from fixed. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So Vibhagata, you have to katapadang these with examples. But for application, now you know it. It's there in your head. So you will try them with your students as it is appropriate. It's not just taking rewards and punishments as a tool for facilitating. You're doing it with better understanding because you know the 4 types of rewards and punishments. You know the reinforcement schedules and when and where to use. Am I right?
Right, ma'am.
So, summary of this. B.F. Skinner is American psychologist, and he's also a behaviorist. Because of that, for him also learning is habit formation, low level of learning, and learning happens with our interaction with the environment, that is everything not within us. And in this B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning, learning happens as a result of rewards and punishment. Learning can be facilitated through rewards and punishments. So for that to be implemented effectively, he came up with the concepts of types of rewards and punishments and reinforcement schedules. The 4 types of rewards and punishment: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. Rewards or reinforcements are to strengthen good behaviors. If it is positive, you are giving something to the students, something that they like. If it is negative reinforcement, you are removing something from the students, something they don't like. If it is punishment, it is to weaken the bad behaviors. And positive, now you are giving something that the students don't like. If it is negative punishment, you are removing something that the students like. And reinforcement schedules, if you take continuous reinforcement, though not practical, to get the students to form or establish the good habit. And then once the good habit is formed, as it's not practical, you can go to intermittent or partial. And there are 4 types: fixed interval intermittent, variable interval intermittent, fixed ratio intermittent, variable ratio intermittent. Interval means period of time. Ratio means number of times. So as you're not rewarding every time, you say every last Friday. Like that, right? After 3 months, in 3 months, like that, you can tell them. Ratio, number of times, 10 books, homework done 10 times, like that. If it is fixed, it is more motivating. If it is variable, it's less motivating. But you use less motivating variable interval and variable ratio also, because you know always motivation, rewards, they are actually not ethical, because they develop only extrinsic motivation and they become selfish and they do everything for a reward. Created social issues in personal lives as well. So to give the sound mind, when it is right time, you can move on to variable interval and variable ratio. They are now doing it. They know they are entitled for a reward, but it's not very sure. But they are now intrinsically motivated to do so because they have formed the habit. Now they have got into the habit of doing that, so they will continue. But time to time, you can give them a reward. That's it. I think with that, we can stop today's work, and I will introduce you to the rest of the work covered under learning. This is what will be covered next time under learning, the same unit. We have to talk about socio-cultural theory of Vygotsky, information processing theory of learning, Gagné, cognitive, social learning theory by Bandura. So we are going to look at these 3 theories, what concepts are discussed in this. You are not going to stick to one concept here. You will use operant conditioning, you will use classical conditioning, you will use Vygotsky, you will use Gagné as it's appropriate in the classroom, and be an eclectic teacher to make it effective and professional teaching. That is it. Okay, now for homework, I want you to actually think of classroom examples. Every one of you take that into your heads, right? Classroom examples for one of the things that you learn. It may be classical conditioning. It may be positive punishment in the classroom. It may be negative punishment in the classroom. It may be continuous reinforcement in the classroom. It may be fixed ratio intermittent schedule of rewards in the classroom. You can take one concept and think of a classroom example, each and every one of you. Are you okay? Say everyone. It's only
Okay, okay, ma'am.
yeah, please do. Right? Show your interest in the work. And I want to hear you next time. Okay? You can select anything, a classroom example, because ultimately application of classroom, right, in the classroom. So if you come up with lots of examples, you can listen to each other's examples and come to a better understanding how to actually use them in the actual classroom to facilitate learning. Okay, so it's a learning opportunity for you to listen, share, and then come to know better how to apply them in the classroom, because you all have your own examples. So I have to thank you. Before that, winding up, is there anything that you want to get clarified? I want to tell you, March 1st week is your assignment presentation. Okay, March 1st week. I have given you adequate time, materials, everything, instructions, everything.
Excuse me, madam.
Yeah, dear.
Yeah, ma'am, this is Shalini.
Yeah, Shalini.
Yeah, ma'am, I didn't get any topic for the assessment, ma'am. Can you give it to me?
No, as it's because that you are a kind of a newcomer. Am I
No,
right?
ma'am, I'm not a newcomer. I have registered earlier, but ma'am, because of my tough schedule, I couldn't participate for any lectures, ma'am. Today, because of my work, because of my job, I have listened to the recordings already, but I didn't get any. Yeah.
I will give you Sigmund Freud.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Ma'am, thank
Right.
you so much.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Right then, good night. Thank you very much, every one of you. Have a good week ahead, okay?
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Everyone should come with an example, okay?
Okay.
Good.
Okay, ma'am.
Good. I'm leaving, ending the meeting.